All right, we're continuing our hashtag my 30-day world challenge. Like I said, I'm not doing these things in the order that they were listed because my dates don't quite coincide, and some questions make more sense to me than others and easier to do individually and some as a lump. And this particular one is, which faction in your world is feared and reviled? Which faction? Well, I guess I have to look at this from a couple of perspectives without getting off on a big tangent. We're talking the actual typical campaign world for a small group of would-be heroes or adventurers. Traditionally, the only faction or factions they worry about are the ones that are going to impact them directly. In my futuristic setting of Stellar Frontiers, in the Imperium of Settled Space, there are an insane number of possible factions which could be feared and reviled. The question being, of course, is, in part, the player, the House Lord, and it's in some direct, well, in a major direct way, it's his game campaign. It's his game world. He chooses to use my backstory. He or she is still creating their house in their section of the frontier, which may differ wildly from somebody else who's located on the other side of settled space. And so if I look at my own beta test, and I played my own game, that's one of the unique advantages of this game system, that technically there is no game master. There is no star master. Because as the player, everybody would have their own set of books. You may choose to have somebody act as a referee or as a coordinator so people can play in this, off each other's games. And you may even sit down occasionally and compare notes, but there's no need for the group to sit around a table on a regular basis to meet, because the lion's share of what you do for your game house is intimately yours, not everybody else's. Now, that once again, I'm not trying to get off on tangents on this. So, looking at my personal beta test and my friends and associates who beta tested off and on for the past 10 years, there was 7 or 8 of them at given times. Shannon Ackerberg and Kenneth Medley both played the longest. Kenneth is still playing his house quite successfully, with the occasional email or question to me about how I do this or what do I think of something. And he's having a good time with it, and that was the whole point. So he didn't need all these other people who came and went, because once they left, then he didn't have to worry about them anymore, or he could choose to continue them as NPCs, but he didn't have their information. So all he have access to is what he was able to acquire through game interaction while I was mediating him and the other 3 players that were in cahoots at the time. So one of our biggest feared factions is the One True Path, or the OTP. This is this neo-religious organization that is a huge advocate of humanity first, but not only humanity first, but pure humanity first. They are against cyber implants, bioengineering. They're against technology, bioorgans, things that will alter the human mind or body in any way. So even to some degree, advanced medicine. These people are purists. They're also hypocrites, because they themselves take advantage of all the same technology that everybody else does to help further their goals. They want others to do as they say, not do as they do. And they justify it they justify the need to dabble in the heretical, demonic whatevers that everybody else is in the grip of, so they can keep the core of humanity on the righteous and pure path, blah, blah, blah. Now, the concept here of them being a bogeyman is that they try to control any houses that's led by humans. And any house that's led by a biohuman, or a genome of a human being or an actual alien race, they're actively trying to eliminate them. Whether it's subtly through terrorism and working behind the scenes to stir up local problems, or outright invasion. If they can bring enough forces together and they can conquer a planet or destroy it and turn it into a dust bowl or back to the Stone Age, they'll attempt it. And the Imperium turns a blind eye to this to a certain degree. The Imperium has limits to how far they will involve themselves in what they think or deem as purely local affairs. Thus, as long as the OTP and other cults of its nature do not step above a certain activity level, i.e. challenge, let's say, a princedom or one of the core houses, they're not going to react. They're not going to act on it. In our mind, it's it's the local lord's issue to deal with. Now, if the local lord can get enough of his neighbors together to deal with the OTP, then maybe the other way around. The Imperium might step in saying, well, you can't, by rights, you can't eradicate an entire group of individuals that you don't agree with. You can't actively go on a hunt outside your sphere of control. And there's the rub, right? So, and they are feared by quite a few non-human, pure human people. And pointing out that 80-90% of humanity in the future, in my eyes, are actually genetically altered human being. This is where we've taken and created specific crosses between animal and human and alien and human to fit certain niches or certain job categories over the millennia. And some of these have been successful enough that they become races unto themselves to some degree, with entire houses legally led by these individuals or these genomes. So there's a lot of that going on. And most people revile them. And of course, when I looked at this question, factors in your world feared and reviled, I also wonder the cross connection with the possibility of the monsters. So in my case, as I said in my entry on monsters, the bugs, i.e. Stormship Trooper kind of thing, are some of the most feared entities in space because of the sheer destructive capability they can do in a short order. So thus, they technically are a race. They're not just a monster, but they're a monstrous race. And they are reviled and feared and terminated almost instinctively. These things show up in any form. The locals are behooved to act rapidly, because if the bugs get an established foothold on a House Lord's planet, there's increasingly likely percentage chance that somebody from another bigger house or the Imperium itself is going to step in and eliminate them. And if they can't eliminate them on the ground without taking huge casualties, they're going to eliminate them from the orbit by basically eliminating the planet, making it, irradiating it, nuking it to the Stone Age or worse. And there are far worse weapons available in the future than nukes. That just goes without saying. Nukes are not everything in a bag of chips. Not today, or not by futuristic standards. Plasma cannons, for example, in large enough numbers can literally burn a planet to a cinder. So there you have that. That's just one example of many, and there's quite a few different versions on that. It's based off the individual house and the player who created that house. So there you have it.